episode of the Corporate Happiness Show. And I just get always so excited with my guests, and my superstar guest today, her name is Chelsea, and we met through the focus groups that I hold in researching, burnout and happiness at work and whatnot. So welcome, Chelsea, and thanks again for being here and also for being in the focus group.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for inviting me. It was really great to get together with you and some other people in our field and talk through all those ideas the other week. So thanks so much.
It was a great group, wasn't it?
It was just, really
every group is great, but I think like the harmony between the people was just really, really amazing. And what I love about these focus groups is that together there's so many potent things we're coming up with, yet they're all like, if you think about it, it's all common sense what we're talking about, but until it's said and somebody hears it, it's not in their awareness. So I feel like it's very potent to talk about happiness at work.
Sure. Yeah, it was very nice too. I think it's important to get unique perspectives from different people in different industries and different roles. In our group, somebody had a lot of focus in DE&I, and that really brought a unique perspective every time we were all answering our own perspectives, the questions. Having that different background is like really valuable.
Right. Yeah. I just love these groups and meet so many good, experts and whatnot, and just good people, that want to do good in the world too. And this show is all about that happiness at work. So you are a leader. You are a director of people culture. Tell me a little bit what that means and what you do.
It means everything.
I love it. You are everything to the world. I love it. That's how it's supposed to be.
It's a really great and exciting role. I've been in digital marketing agencies my whole career doing people and culture. And I feel like, especially I live in Orlando, Florida. This is, not San Francisco, not New York. And so I was actually one of like the first people in my area to have a title like director of people and culture. What does that look like? What does that shift from traditional HR generalist that are really important, which I do a lot of them, but also wearing this hat and perspective and giving almost glasses to other members of my team to say, I hear what you're saying. I hear the operational issue that we're having. I hear the task conflict things. And here's another filter to put on it. What is that person and that human feeling? How are they showing up? What is the other things that they're carrying in? What are the communication conflict issues that they're having? That add a whole different layer into how do we show up for the people that we work with? And how do we as companies support the whole human? Because especially in the digital marketing area and creative fields, that is so much more important. You can't have the quality of work that like Pixar puts out without really allowing the full human to show up at work and be completely who they are. So
if creative people are unhappy, it's not going to work. It's not going to work.
And there's creativity in all different roles. I say it all the time with my job. Like, we create beautiful things, whether that's an amazing report on data or that's, or that's something that's like a brand element that's going out there and is on a digital ad or something like that. So
I like what you you completed this whole picture. Like, everyone is creative and every work can be creative and everyone wants to live a good life and a happy life, which is creativity, really. And which points out that people really need to be taken care of and happy in order to really thrive at what they're doing. So you're a specialist in many, many ways. You have background of creative copywriting, but then also that business expertise in leading and culture and all that good juicy stuff. So how does your background help you with what you do, and what makes that so valuable?
Yeah, I think we're all a little like self-judgmental, and it took me a while in my life to get to the point where I recognized that my natural tendency to follow my curiosity in what I want to do, just with life and research, is what makes me uniquely capable in my job. I I was a creative kid. My mom's a professional actress. I was in theater. I studied art history. I started working in event planning on like larger corporate scale. Learned all this business aspect of that, with profits and loss and contracts and all these things that you have to do. And then went back to school and was studying advertising design, and I'm a strong writer, and so I ended up being a brand copywriter. And by being a brand copywriter, I was doing a lot of the foundational work that People and Culture has, which is, let's paint a picture of this environment that we want to create, how we want to show up, what our values are, what do we represent. And so then when I decided, I was like, okay, I love being creative. I don't know that I want it to be my everyday stressor, everyday thing that I'm doing. I want to apply it, but I want to apply it in a different way. And then I moved over, to an operational role, and that grew into this whole career of people and culture, and building out this sort of unique aspect of how we show up for people. I do think that one really nice thing about having been on a producer side, especially in the agency world, is I get it. When I talk to my employees, I know that I know what that pain is like. I know what the creative angst is like. I know what trying to produce things on certain hours is like, or communications. I just have a deeper understanding of the day-to-day challenges that they're facing because I've done it before. And then I get to put it through this other filter that I have of being on leadership teams and seeing all the messiness under the carpet. I guess is always, I'm like, there's all this stuff that's going on business-wise and things to keep in mind. And I can partner those two things together to hopefully give some great initiatives and support employee engagement in a unique way.
You have a really big picture, and it's almost like what comes out towards me is like, you're pinpointing creativity, how important that actually is, and then also to honor creativity. And because in creativity comes a lot, when you honor your creativity and other people's creativity, a lot of like real amazing, like getting to know yourself, but also your strength. And if you think about life, when life just takes you on a ride, creativity helps you to find new solutions. So you're pinpointing not just on creativity, and I say not just art is creative, and it's not just, I take that back, but creative with colors, with creative with crafting, but there is creative there's being creative in life where you can come up with solutions, and you're taking it even a step further and bringing your creativity and your understanding of it and respecting it to your job, meaning that people just really will feel safe with you because to honor and how who they are in their creative state, right?
I love that you're pulling out the creativity part again. And I'm going to go back to the word curious, because I was just working with my director of operations this morning, and both her and I do a really good job of applying creativity to our work and our problem solving. And we start by getting curious. We're always asking more questions and saying, maybe I'm showing up to the table with an assumption or a perspective, and I need to shift it, and leaning into it like it's creativity. It's an art of going, I can turn this multiple different ways.
Yes.
And maybe if I see it from this other perspective, if I open up my empathy and understand this person a little bit more, and it helps us bring different solutions to the table that identify maybe the real pain points that we need to get to. So yes, very much. It can be a very creative, very creative role to suss out and understand what is it that these people really, that I work with, really need. Again, making assumptions, I can do that all day, but really figuring out and digging in, and it's not always the obvious stuff.
Making assumptions comes from our old recordings, our feelings, our ways of experiencing the world. But when you're curious, actually you're throwing yourself out there into the bigger picture, right? What else could there be? And in reality, without curiosity, there is not much creativity. So it goes hand in hand. And I like how you actually take something that being curious. A lot of people say, oh, don't do that. That gets you, stay in your lane, and how we used to do things. And creativity, which is always, or no, not always, but a lot of times looked at as a little bit like it doesn't have a space in work, and it's a little bit on the weak spot and whatnot. It's not tough and rough. Kind of like how you taking these two ways of being and living, curiosity and creativity, and you're putting it, action packaging it and putting it into the corporate world. And that to me is a very heart open way of actually doing business. I think it's fascinating how you do that. Really, I feel like that.
Thank you. Yeah, I really think that in order to show up in this type of position, this people and culture type of position, you have to abandon a lot of the red tape of what HR is considered, especially in a lot of more corporate environments. I get it. There's rules and things that we need to follow. There's laws and stuff. But if we define the work that we do by constantly making sure we're not like breaking a rule or like that the red tape or whatever, we just run into not really being empathetic and not really showing up and not really listening to what is the room telling us, what are the people around us saying, and then we don't end up showing up creatively with other solutions. The red tape makes this assumption that we like figured out how to do HR and people stuff like 50 years ago and that was all correct and right, and that's just not reality at all.
No, it's not reality. It's not. It's an invitation. These times, it's been a long time happening, but these times are an invitation to be creative and curious about what other ways there could be, and that means listening to the people and talking to the people. So how do you think these times, COVID and all that, I know in a focus group you brought up amazing viewpoints. How do you think it changed everything? And like, with people working from remote and COVID in itself, right? And all the experiences that people had privately. Tell me a little bit more about what you think about that.
This is one of my most, I'm so fascinated by this area of study right now. I'm a little obsessive about it. Anybody will talk to me to talk about it.
Please keep obsessing. I love it. We need it.
I actually finally participated in a webinar the other day, and I was like sharing it with everyone because that person was finally saying things that I felt like I was going around and saying. I sit in tons of webinars. I'm constantly educating myself, and especially now. And I've sat in on more piece of advice for HR people on what to do with everybody's burnout and COVID and everything. And it's the same stuff that they were saying like before the pandemic. And I want to be like, you guys we're really missing the point, because this is completely unique and different. And we have to recognize that for 2 years, we as humans sat in a state of fear for our own lives, for the lives of people that we love. We had to cancel weddings, and we didn't get to sit with our friend who had a baby, and we didn't do birthday parties, and we didn't do book clubs, and we didn't do whatever the connection things that we did, and we sat in this state of fear. And now we have psychological issues coming out of that, and our people are very what I'm seeing is this rubbing against this conflict between the integrity that we have for our work and our jobs. Americans are obsessive about their jobs. We spend ridiculous amounts of time working. The millennial culture followed their passions into their jobs, and we want to do that and do that well. And we want the certainty of our work. And then this other side of us wants change and freedom and to break away and to appreciate our lives outside of work. And we are having this internal conflict with ourselves. And we're seeing it show up in people, this great reshuffle of people jumping to jobs, which is hopefully slowing down a little bit. As an HR person, my head is like, I can't hire any more people. People are shifting around jobs. They're asking for more respect of their time. They're putting different types of boundaries up. This quiet quitting idea that really is just for those who are doing it correctly and still have integrity is just setting some boundaries up.
Yes.
we're just seeing people figure out the investment of themselves in a different way. And we as companies need to be ahead of that and show up for people. And I think it's our responsibility to help support this shift as a culture, like a North American culture, to not burn our humans and people out. I mean, it relates to so many things, the health of our nation in general, the health of our families and our relationships and our communities and our connections. And those things are critical and vital to our lives and just to the future who we are. See, I go down this path and I just start pulling in more and more stuff, but I'm listening to Stolen Focus by Johann Hari, and he was talking about how our inability to focus also impacts our society, because we don't have the brain energy anymore to focus on the things that are really crucial and important in our world.
Yeah.
We can't get invested in, and they aren't political, but like people investing time and energy and going, how can we help support our environment? Can't do it when we're burnt out all the time in everything else that we're doing. And our focus is being constantly stolen and taken away everywhere else.
Exactly.
So I think these things are just so important and so compound. And this pandemic made it even more clear that there is not a boundary between the human you roll out of bed as and the human that shows up 2 hours later on your first Zoom call. They're the same person. They're holding all of these feelings and emotions and these struggles and what have you. And we have to recognize that it's both.
I like to take a deep breath. I like what you say, because I'm a big believer in that you are a wholesome being. And as that wholesome being, you're doing your life, and in your life, you're working in private and that, but you're not one person here and one person there. And this whole leave everything outside of work and then show up as this empty shell, it never worked, but it's even more now that it doesn't work. And it's kind of interesting that you said focus, because I have a podcast. It's called The Weekly Freak, and it's more on the how to live just really happy, mindful, and conscious. And this week's podcast, and they're very short, and this week's podcast was from unfocused to happy. You know, it's because the focus is such an amazing tool, really. And so I like how you said focus, and everything you say, I stand behind it, in front it, next to it, on top of it, underneath. I just like, yes, I want to hear more. So you are also doing your master's in psychology. And when I read that, I'm like, ooh, I love her even more. So tell me a little bit about that and how that helps you. And because it seems for you that is your passion.
It is my passion. It is a program that I have just been starting this year. So I'm right in the beginning of ramping into the program. But I spent a good 2-3 years thinking, where do I want to study? What do I want to study? I thought about an MBA at one point, because I definitely have a business side, but the human psychology side needed to be there more for me. I had thought at one point, one of my favorite parts of my job is consultation. I love sitting down with an individual and talking through whatever they're going through, and helping put some tools into place, since I have like a running list of like every book and tool that I've ever, I'm like, hey, try this, let's try this. I love that part. So I had thought, maybe that life coach kind of path, like, was that the direction I was going to go in? And I really recognized that it's about applying psychology, human understanding in the individual, and then applying that to the workplace. And how can we support that structure and growth in a really unique way? So I'm excited to actually, this whole rant that I've gone on, now about like the psychology and the pandemic and everything is really where I'm hoping, I'm on a thesis track. I'm really hoping that that'll end up going into my research, because I just have a lot of passion of understanding different people and the backgrounds we come from, the different generational changes, what the Xers versus the elder millennials versus the millennials and the Gen Zs are all doing, and how they're showing up different ways to the table. And then this like psychological aspect of like the world changing and the existential crisis we had, and kind of applying all those to the new workplaces that we have, which for a lot of people are completely remote. So it's really it took a long time coming of like, okay, this is a direction I want to go in, but I think adding in additional education is always a good thing and important, and being able to bring a unique perspective and get to write about it. And then I hope someday that I can keep sharing and teaching myself, to all these things that I learned, to
I
others as
love
they're
it.
learning too.
Love it. And it's like what's really just so springing out in this is about you and what you talk about is that you're looking at this in the, I say it again, in the bigger picture for humanity. We're in a big shift, and it's such an incredible shift. It's a chance. It's a to make everything better for people, because without the people there's really no business. There's
Right.
nothing there. And to humanize everything and to get off that boat, especially like you said in America, of do faster, 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 more, because I'm from Switzerland and I lived in Europe, in many countries in Europe, all my life, and it's just a little different there, because you really are a human being, and it's important that you take vacation. You have to take your vacation.
Right.
And but even there, things shifted a little bit away from that, and is that because a lot of times, these countries are also looking at America, right? It's like, oh, right, we follow them, but they're not looking at that it's kind of crumbling too, that people are dropping left and right, being tired and just can't do this anymore. So I like your message about bringing to the table a deeper understanding and a betterment that actually serves the bigger picture of humanity. And that's really what we're about, because business is no different. It's a human space where humans work, and it's an organism, and you got to keep it healthy, right?
Yeah. That made me think of, I feel that so much. I was listening to one of Brene Brown's podcasts, and I am blanking on his first name. His last name is Sunshine, and I am completely
Love
blanking
it.
on his first name. It'll come to me.
Yeah.
But they were talking about, it was a little bit earlier this year, and it was really the coming out, and Brene was bringing the people in her company back in person. But they were talking about the level of stress that had happened in the previous year, and the percentage of people who were physically ill from their stresses at work was very, very high. And I think maybe it hits and resonates with me really personally, because I was one of those people. Like, I had physical illness symptoms from just my stress level being so high. And as I said, these things all feed into one another. Our
Yes.
society, to how we take care of people who are sick, and the healthcare, and then what we have to do as a society to support one another. If we're making people ill at work, and ill either physically or mentally, we're not doing ourselves the very best service.
Yeah, it actually
So,
highlights. It's an invitation to betterment, and to be curious and creative, come
right,
up with new solutions, and
right,
also it highlights actually how far off we are, because we can it's not sustainable really. So,
right.
hey, so you have a talk, and it's called, I wrote it down, A Million Little Moments, and it actually was voted as a favorite. And tell us a little bit about that. And in short, I know the talk is probably going too longer than the podcast should, but tell us a little bit about what it's about and a couple points in it, because I really, if it's recorded somewhere, also tell where people can
Yeah.
listen to it.
Absolutely. Really big fan of the HR tool, BambooHR, hashtag not sponsored. They're a really great tool, and they hold a really great virtual summit each year. And I've attended the one that they did in person as well. But I got the opportunity in 2020 to speak at it, which was very exciting, very fun. I have what I call kind of my own little personal brand, A Million Little Moments, and it'll feed into everything that
Love it.
we're talking
Love
about.
it. Yes.
But one of the things I realized early on in my career, I was having a lot of anxiety over this desire to like control the culture of my company. And I didn't understand how I would implement an initiative, and it just like wasn't making the impact. And I was hearing things through other people and channels. And I was like, this isn't like, why can't I control this situation that we were in, and the company was feeling a little bit, some people were feeling some apathy. It was like, it wasn't going in a great direction. I was like, I want to turn this around. And I started to recognize that it wasn't the big things, it was the little moments that were happening for people. And if I really dove in and tried to create processes that created consistency over time, even if I was hands off, they were like almost working for me. The people and their experiences spiderweb out to one another.
Yeah.
So I end up supporting somebody and kind of put a tool out there, and it might be really small. It could be just how I show up in the room, it could be just how I deliver feedback, but that really, in that little thing, impacts somebody so much that then that's how they show up in a different room, or how they share a piece of information to somebody else, and it all like
Yes.
ripple effects out. And the goal, you're never going to be perfect. The goal is to have more positive moments than the negative ones, and to put a ton of empathy into understanding when a negative one is going to happen and how can we make that land a little bit better.
Yes.
So the talk was a lot about a lot of the things that we've been discussing. The whole human shows up to work, and we have to understand that our psychologists and our sociologists have done the work for us in the past. They've shown us Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We do know that safety is like the core thing at the bottom. How do we recognize those basic human needs in the workplace first, and know that our teammates are showing up every day on a base level asking if they're safe,
Yes.
if they're okay, that our person might show up today and something might be very uncertain in their life outside of work. Maybe there's an issue with their home and their physical home safety is not okay. Maybe there's something going on with a family member. Maybe something financially feels very insecure. And they're showing up with all of those feelings too. And they're looking for reassurance in their workplace constantly that things are going well. And only when we can create an environment of safety and support in that way, on all the different levels, on the compensation, on the job explanation, on the clarity, on the communication. It's only when we hit all those things that we can actually hit that top level where we get the most maximum creativity out of people, because everything else is super taken care of. That's a brief bit.
I like
talk.
it.
But it was a talk on the recognition of that. It can be found online. There's a portal that Bamboo created with all the top talks from their different summits. So you can do a little search and find it and watch it.
Yeah, I want to do that. Listeners should actually do that. And when you brought up safety, something that really stuck out to me is like, the whole meaning of safety at work changed. Mm-hmm. And it's important, it used to be having a job, it used to be getting paid, but it's actually way beyond that. Like you just highlighted, it's also like, can I go to work and I'm safe with the way I feel today?
Right.
Can I be open? Can I just, without being judged or whatnot, can I just be me the way I am in my life right now and show up as such? Because yes, pay is very important too, and days off and whatnot is important too. But ultimately, it shifted from like a space that has to be safe to a feeling. I need to feel safe, and that's for everyone a little bit different, but it's not difficult to really create. It's really back to basics. Let the humans be humans, and that I think always starts with the leadership, because if the leaders show up as that, then suddenly the people are saying, well, wait a minute, yeah, okay, I can do that too, right? Because it's one thing to just create it or to just say it, but then not the leadership not pulling with it. I think it's a whole value that has to be set from the top, would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. You just made me think of, kind of
two related we things. Are super creators together.
Absolutely. So you made me think about, you were like, it shifted. Yes, it did shift. Without choice, most of us had to open our entire homes, our backgrounds, the children screaming, our husband or wife or girlfriend or boyfriend or partner or roommate sitting right next to us, doing work. We had to like open this whole thing up and put it like on a screen to other people. And like, how scary like level of like boundary changed when the work office became the home office, right? And then you
Yeah.
said leadership level, and then I thought about the one of the videos that kind of went viral was a guy was sitting on a video call, maybe it was an interview or something, and he got up because his kid tried to open the door or something, and he stood up and he was wearing basketball shorts, and he sat down and he was like, oh my gosh, I am so sorry. And the guy who was interviewing him, or the boss, got up to get coffee, and he's like, not a problem. And he was also wearing like basketball shorts with this button up, and it was like, that's a leader who knows to show up.
Yes, that is amazing.
So that's okay. I'm gonna put it out there because we are all in
yeah, we're all in it together.
Yeah.
And you know, then suddenly it's not a nightmare anymore, because it's like, okay, it's like, yes,
that is what a million little moment is. That moment for that person, whether they hired them or it was his boss, what have you, that lasts for people. That human interaction, it's like tokens in a jar that like later when something's stressful or hard, or you know, something doesn't go as planned, it's okay because you've gained credit with one another because you've shown up for one another as humans.
I like that.
Not just a place that demands everything out of you and just drains you.
Yeah, and I will not ask you to stand up right now. I will not ask.
I will be honest. I am wearing some Lululemons.
Yeah, so. I'm wearing jean shorts. So there we go. Take that. That is reality. No, but I like that really. Yeah, that you brought that up with the video. As funny as it is, it just shows, it highlights, right? How important it is that leadership really does that. So how do you keep yourself so centered that you can show up with such a big heart? Because I see it. I read people's energy, so I do all this good stuff. So I just see that you're having a really, really big heart, that it really matters to you in how you show up, but also that you're very aligned in who you are. You're very settled, you know, rooted and settled. Well, how do you do that every day? Because you are there, right there, listening to people's problems and all that. And I know curiosity and creativity is important, but how else do you keep yourself in an aligned state so you can show up and actually do the marvelous work that you actually are doing?
That's not easy and not something that comes on right away. And I've gone through periods where I've had to check myself on how personally and how deeply I was taking some things.
Yes.
So that took a lot of effort. I mean, very transparently, I have a life coach that I've had for 4 years, and I see her every 2 weeks, and it's a crucial part of me being able to get out a lot of my up and then establishing boundaries, which is what everybody's talking about. But I definitely have to do that, and I make that choice. I'm very confident in what I'm able to help bring to the table for people, and I'm here to listen and help and to provide and supportive tools. And I do care. I care personally.
I can tell. Yeah.
I'll challenge directly when I need to. I care personally. I obviously have a passion for it, but I also frequently go, okay, like, you did what you could there. Like, you gotta like go on to the next thing and just establish some of those own mental health tools.
Which brings back to the place again that you're doing it too, so that people can look up to you and say, oh, she's doing that. She's not thinking that she got to do it by herself either. She's doing self-care. She's getting the support and help she needs. And that's really what we were just talking about. You know, it's from leadership all the way down. And if you manage people, it's a people job. It's not a number job. It's important in how the values that you have and how you show up, because people will notice that, and people will feel safe when they can say, oh, she's doing that too. Leadership is doing that too. Especially for people that come from an unsafe, you know, space or job, and they come into the new space, they may not trust this right away, but if they see it, right, and then they start feeling it, and then they start trusting, and suddenly it's normal for people. So kudos to you that you're also like showing this, and that you're saying, hey, this is what I do, and you know, this works and it's good. And do you share that with people freely at work?
Oh, absolutely. Just had a conversation recently about, I have multiple conversations where I'm honest about the type of work that I do on myself personally, and really showing up as my authentic self. And I set my expectations with the rest of my team too. Even from the beginning of onboarding, I make it clear that I want them to be able to show up completely themselves, and what my capacity is here to help support them, and that I am a safe space, and I will be a lockbox for information if I need to, or I can help them problem solve if they need to. So I'm very transparent with people. I think showing up, again, it takes a lot of that work. You have to do a lot of personal work to get to a point where you feel comfortable
you gotta do it for you
to show up authentically. And I still don't get it right constantly. I mean, we all have imposter syndrome situations, or, you know, what have you. But being able to get to a place where you show up authentically, and to recognize if the environment that you're in, like your environment is a choice. We all choose and make the environment that we sit in. And so if something is not right, and it is not allowing you to be your best self, like something else needs to change. And it's not a you thing. Just, you know,
yes,
I have been in a place before where the environment was wrong, and I lost my voice, and I felt very small, and I wasn't able to be my best self. And when I moved out of that environment to a new one that trusted me and put me in rooms that I was able, and like listened to me when I spoke, I was like, oh, and all this
amazing,
all this myself came out, and I discovered more about me and what my interests and passions were, and it only snowballed on itself.
That's the thing. Yeah, and you're part of it. That's the thing. And then just to be honest to yourself and say, it's not working here. It's the environment. Right. Or to say, okay, I'm not happy. What can I do and bring to the table, right? And create some sort of change too. So as a last question, because we're kind of like running over a little bit, but I know people will want to hear more of you. So as a last question, it's like, so it's a big subject, happiness at work. It's a big subject. What does it really mean to you? What do you think? What comes to your mind? Happiness at work.
I think that's a tricky word.
Yeah.
Because I'm just going to say it. I think if we set our expectation of being happy every single time with every single thing and elated, that like that's not what we're going to get. We should be comfortable at work and fulfilled by the work that we're doing. We should feel safe. We should be having fun.
Yeah.
My director of ops and I talk about that a lot. Like, I'm showing up, I'm having a good time. You should be able to leave. You're not going to leave every meeting or every project. It's not all going to go well, but feeling like you're contributing to something, feeling fulfilled, liking the other people that you work with, feeling that support, those all contribute to that like general feeling of happiness.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
At work.
And I mean, it also is like happiness in general, in life, at work, whatnot. It's part, you know, it's a part of embracing what is.
Right.
You know, and not dwelling in the negative all the way. And then also, like you said, you know, these little things in life, you can shift yourself with so many little things and whatnot. Happiness doesn't mean that everything is always has to be flowery, you know, like that. But it means that you're actually finding a good way of sustaining, you know, your life and your work, and in general you are really embracing what's going on. And I feel that I feel like that is really happiness, when you just kind of find satisfaction in things, right?
You can't know the highs without lows. If you just sat kind of in the middle and just numbed out all the time, you wouldn't have that balance. And that's the exciting part of life, you know, like all these different challenges to face. But and
you know, like yesterday I was asked about, so what was a really not the very good or the worst advice business that you ever gotten, and why was it so bad, Jacqueline? And I wrote and I said, well, so and so, and I'm not going to go into details now. And I said, but ultimately that was, yeah, sure, it was not the right advice because it didn't fit who I am, but it shot me so much into like, no, heck no, I'm not going to do that, that I actually aligned with who I am, which makes it actually the best advice that I've ever gotten, because it shot me right into what I really needed to do, and that was successful. So, and to really like, and to me that's happiness, you know, to me that's happiness, to find gold in everything really, and then to move forward. So, well, thank you for being on the show. I mean, we could chit chat for hours, and I think we should have definitely a follow-up episode soon. So where can people find you and connect with you?
Definitely on LinkedIn. Chelsea Stonerock. I think I'm the only human on earth with that name. It can be very easy to find. I'll definitely would be happy to connect with anybody on there and talk further.
Excellent. Yeah, I invite everyone to connect with you because your journey is just so incredible, and what you say is super. And I mean, obviously you keep studying and your research and everything, so I can't wait to see what's coming, because I know it will help the big picture in humanity. So thank you for being on the show.
Oh, thanks so much.
And the listeners, yeah, I appreciate you too. And the listeners, thank you for listening. I hope you got a good few laughs out of it and some inspiration, and maybe even some things that touched your heart and that you can take deeply to your heart and move forward, as we said, as different, as new, and as just more happy and more understanding for everything. So thanks so much.